ask you the same question.
Okay.
How did we get here?
Good morning, Cedar Rapids. Hey, salutations. Okay.
Brothers, let us all unite!
You would rather have us keep the internet than have peace in the world. Like, no, I gotta have my internet.
Live in front of an internet audience. Why do I always talk in this voice? I don't know. But it's the I'm Clifford Today show. Edo. How's everyone doing today? I know. We're getting started a little later. Just a tiny bit later than usual. It's my bad. I just had a long week. So, and also, I'm having to take care of my dogs. Well, my dog and my sister's dog. So, just had to make sure that everything was going okay there. Music by John Bartman, johnbartman.com. Our album of the week is Plastic Beach by Gorillaz. Welcome to the world of the Plastic Beach. And, yeah, so it's weird because last night I say last night, but I probably woke up this morning at some point and then fell back asleep. And I was having this dream about how I was, like, doing stuff on my computer, and apparently I had been streaming and I didn't know it. And, I don't even remember, but I think I had said some unseemly things. Unseemly. And I was like, oh no. Now this is going to end up on one of those stream fail compilations. Which I always thought, like, how do you mess up like that? How do you not know when you're streaming? Like, how do you forget to turn off your stream or whatever? So I never understood that. And even in the dream, it was like, how do I, like, it's not like I was streaming and then I forgot to turn it off in the dream. It was like I was on my computer and all of a sudden I accidentally started the stream. So my dream didn't make sense, but when do dreams ever do that? So, got a lot to go through today. We're going to see. I did have a couple things. Of course, we have our main topic today. We're going to be talking about Slim Shady and everything going on with that. And we might get around to talking about Dante Bowe and the whole Maverick City music debacle. We shall see. But first, got a lot of housekeeping to get done, actually. So we're going to get that over with. Just to remind everyone, new single out from Sherwood Forest from my my band/music project. We got a new single out. It's called Even in the Wild, and it's out on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. It's on Bandcamp if you want to support me directly. That's a thing. Well, like iTunes, with Apple Music, if you buy it, that is kind of like supporting me directly. But anyway, so yeah, it's a song that I'm super proud of, and I'm working on some new Sherwood Forest music, so, definitely be on the lookout for that. And I may actually have another song that I want to release sometime soon, but you guys will hear about it if that is the case. Also want to remind everyone about merchandise. We got shirts, got mugs, got stickers, I'm Clifford Today stuff. If you want to become Clifford Today, that's a good way to do it. And so, link in the description. So always got to remind you guys about that. And something else happened this past week. I was guest featured on another podcast, and I want you guys to check it out if you guys are interested at all. I was a guest on the Church Hurt podcast with my buddy Chuck Hollenbeck. It's a very interesting conversation. If you guys have ever wondered what I've been up to for the past couple years, some of you guys may know that I was in full-time ministry for a little while, and I'm obviously not in it now. And so this podcast episode goes into what went down with that. Sort of, I leave some details out because, I don't want to name people or anything. But, yeah, so it's a very, very raw and transparent conversation. And so if you're interested in checking that out, and hopefully it's helpful to some people, it's called the Church Hurt Podcast. I forget the name of the episode. It doesn't have my name in the episode, but let me see. From a worship leader's perspective, it is the latest episode. So go check it out. And also Chuck, he's got a really good thing going with that podcast. So yeah, it's just something that I don't know if I'm ever going to address directly on my channel. Maybe someday. It's just kind of off topic from what I usually talk about. So yeah, it's like a 45-minute episode. The Church Hurt Podcast. Go check it out. I have also got a huge announcement. So my audio feed video, What is Audio Feed, is finally finished. It's finally ready. And it's coming out in 2 days, on Monday. It'll be releasing on Monday morning. So I'm glad to finally have it done. It was a couple months of hard work. Not to mention just a long weekend of hard work. And I hope it comes through, all that hard work comes through on the video. I will say I had some unfortunate, things happen with the behind the scenes of it. Just to warn you guys, I think I have it right here. Yeah. I brought this little guy. It's a Zoom handy recorder, and this is what I use to record all my conversations, all the interviews that I had with the artists that I talked to. And I've never done like on the field interviews with people, like outside. And so I didn't bring any sort of wind guard or dead cat. That's what some of them are called. I think that's like the brand of it. I didn't bring anything like that. So some of the conversations are overblown, like literally, no pun intended, overblown by wind. And so I had to mess with the audio and add some subtitles when needed. And so hopefully that's not too annoying to people, because the conversations are still really interesting. I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully that's not a huge deal for people, but I still feel pretty proud of the end result. It's a 2-hour-long video. I had no idea it was going to be that long, but I didn't feel like that I wanted to trim it down or anything. Like, I tried to trim it down somewhat, but like I thought about splitting it up into 2 parts, and I just decided I don't want to do that. My director's vision is that I want it to be complete and whole, 2 hours or whatever. So the thing is that the format of the video, it's like a mixture between a podcast, because it's just the majority of it is interviews with the artists. It's like a mix between a podcast and a documentary, I guess, like a rockumentary of a festival, with some of the footage that I got. So, but a majority, it's like 60% podcast, and that's what takes up a majority of the time and why it's so long, and then like 40% documentary. So hopefully people are down with that. I'm really excited for you guys to see it. We might, depending on the response, we might talk about it in the next episode. I mean, I do have another topic planned to talk about, but if the video gets like a big response, then we'll probably just dedicate our next episode just talking about that and reading comments and such, which I think will be fun. Either way, what is audio feed coming out this Monday, and I'm really excited about it. All right, we're still not done with the housekeeping segment, because the last episode we had was actually, did pretty well and got some responses. And so we're going to get through some. So our last episode, we talked about two big things. We talked about Gunger and their new song, which they came out with another new song, which, I read the lyrics and it's really not that controversial. It's just about forgiveness, and that's all. So it's not really even worth talking about. But yeah, that's what we talked about, and got a few comments on that. Got a comment from, I'm going to do my best to pronounce this name, Ireliz Art. Maybe you can leave a comment on how to pronounce your name. Ireliz Art. She's actually got a cool channel on like art and drawing and such. So go check it out. She left a comment. She said, "Thank you for talking about this. Gunger is one of my favorite groups. One of my favorite songs is Beautiful Things." It is a good song. "Suddenly I felt they were heading in a different way from the gospel, although I still love them and praying for them. And I hope they get to know Jesus in a real way." That's what I hope too. I realize it's really sad to see how far they've come, how far they've gotten away from their faith, and just mixing in different things into it. For those of you who missed the last episode, that's basically where Gunger's at, is just leaving the actual roots of what true faith in God is, and mixing in a lot of different stuff like mysticism and Gnosticism and Taoism and such. It's really sad. And Michael Gunger has been all promoting deconstruction and all that. So yeah, pray for them for sure. And so that hopefully I won't have to make another video on them. But, we'll see about that. And then we had I made a highlight video just dedicated to the whole Torrin Wells situation. That's what I've decided to do. I've decided to, take little segments from the podcast that maybe some people wouldn't watch, because they don't want to watch an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of an episode. So the thing is that the Torrin Wells thing was like over 50 minutes long, and that video did surprisingly well. Actually, that video did better than the actual main episode. So, but I guess it helps to have a very catchy title, like Torrin Wells can't seem to handle criticism very well. So I'm sure that's going to attract a lot of people. the crazy thing is that I was kind of expecting a lot of backlash with that. I was expecting a lot of Torrin Wells defenders, and that's not what I got. I mean, I got like one dislike, but yeah, got a few people who responded. We actually got a response, a comment from Joe Ensley. I sent the video to him. He was he's the YouTuber who originally started this whole drama. Just kidding, Joe. All he was doing was just making an honest reaction and review to the song. But he left a comment and he said, "Thanks for looking at this, and I appreciate your perspective, man." So, thanks, Joe. Thanks for checking out the video. Didn't seem that he had any problems with it. I mean, I know we disagreed on a couple, one or 2 points. He said some things about Christian music that I wasn't really sure where he was coming from. So, but that's fine. You know, it is what it is. And here is a comment that really surprised me. It was kind of it's pretty crazy. But Splendor Namubiru says, "We have always had a dream, me, my family, my friends, and our worship leading team, to meet with Torrin. We have all sat down together and found this video. We put it on straight away. We were like a group of 50 people," which is crazy to me. I mean, this video alone got like close to 300 views, which I'm not meaning to brag. It's that's a lot for a video. I have videos that have had a couple thousand views. It really depends. It's all really dependent on the YouTube algorithm. But for some reason, picturing 50 people sitting down to watch a video of mine is just crazy. Because I mostly just imagine like one person sitting alone at their computer or on their phone and watching it, which I'm sure a majority of my audience does. But I don't picture like 50 people sitting in a room watching my video, watching a 50-minute video. So that was just kind of crazy for me to read. But thank you guys so much for watching it. But anyways, Splendor continues, "We were like a group of 50 people. After watching this video, we finally saw how proudful Torrin Wells is. Most of them got disappointed and lost interest in him. Some of them have even denounced him. But I will pray for him, for the good Lord to convict him about his proudful actions. This really has made me see the bad side about him. Thanks, bro." Which that's all, I was very surprised to get a reaction like that, especially since I was expecting backlash. But thanks, Splendor, for leaving that comment. And I think that's the right response. Someone else also commented, Janelle Harold said, "Pray for him." And yeah, I want that to be clear. And I don't think that I say this enough on the show, especially when I'm talking about a specific person. And this is something that I appreciate from, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the YouTuber, it's a couple of YouTubers, Brylan and Lisa. They're a couple that has a YouTube channel, even though it's mostly Brylan who talks on the YouTube channel. But lately what he's been doing is that every time that he talks about specific people, he always says at the beginning of the video, "Let's pray for these people." And that's the attitude that I want to have. I may have my disagreements with some of the people that I talk about. And, it may be the case that these people are falling away from God, or having some sort of moral failure. But I want the overall attitude to be not to hate on them or to, how would you say, cast them out of the church or anything. That's not my attitude at all. My attitude is for us to be loving and to pray for them. Like, yes, to ridicule them when they're wrong, when they make mistakes, but also to hope that, to pray that they come into a closer relationship with Christ and that they repent. of whatever it is that I'm complaining about. But yeah, absolutely. We need to pray for Torrin Wells. We need to pray for Michael Gungor. Anyone that I talk about. We need to pray for Kevin Max. We need to pray for Derek Webb. All those people that I tend to talk about a lot. Because, yeah, ultimately it is really sad for me to read stories like some of the ones that I read. And I want those people to have a healthy relationship with Christ. And so my hope is that Torrin Wells realizes the error of his ways and, and that he repents of his pridefulness. I was kind of expecting that Torrin Wells was going to comment on the video himself. He never did. He hasn't yet. So, but that's not to say he hasn't seen the video. If he has, I hope that's the attitude that he gets away from it. Torrin Wells, I'm not a hater. I may have said that I'm not really a fan of your music, but that's just a personal taste thing. I really hope the best for you, and I want you to leave Joel Osteen and his teaching. I want you to leave Lakewood Church. We could get into that, but anyways, I just want you to be, above reproach and, repent of your mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So, continuing on with that, got a comment from Greg Hopper. Greg, how's it going? You're probably watching this right now. So, not right now, but you're probably watching this episode. So, I hope you're doing well. Greg says, nice video. There is a need for many different types of songs, especially in Christian radio, as only God knows what message the person listening needs to hear at that moment. So I believe what Greg is addressing right here is the conversation with Joe and Torrin about, like, what songs should be played on Christian radio and all that. Greg says, a young lady may be down because of remembering the abuse she suffered as she grew up, and need a song that just reminds her of God's unconditional love for her. How beautiful is the message in Amazing Grace, and yet it is not worship. It is not worship, is it? As it focuses on the sinner themselves and the impact of God's grace on their condition. I would say that Amazing Grace is kind of a sort of give and take, where it's like, yeah, it does give attention to the condition of the sinner, but at the same time it like mirrors and reflects God's amazing grace and shows gratitude for that. So I would argue that Amazing Grace is a bit more of, yes, I am a sinner, but God's amazing grace is, what saves me. And so yeah, that's the only thing what I would say. But yes, I think I personally don't have a problem with, I grew up listening to a lot of Christian artists, a lot of Christian bands that, not every one of their song really had anything to do with very specifically Christian things. I always kind of like it when an artist sings about different things. And, there are different kind of artists. You got your artists who do feel the need to, like, write a worship song with, like, every song that they write. One of my favorites who does that is Josh Garrels, and I think that's completely okay. And that's just how he, that's just his heart. And there are other artists like Anne Berlin who, they want to write about relationships. They want to write about different things through the lens of, their faith and everything. And I think that's completely okay. And, you got an artist that, like Newsboys, at least classic Newsboys, who, yeah, every song that they wrote was basically some aspect of Christian living, but not all of their songs were necessarily a worship song. Some of their songs were, they wrote a song that was just about the fact that they don't serve breakfast in hell. And I think that's completely okay. It just kind of depends on your personality and what's on your heart and what you want to write about. I mean, of course, new newsboys, that's all they seem to want to write about. They don't really write songs like Breakfast anymore. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Greg. Just one more comment in my humble opinion segment where I give music reviews. I talked about the new Maylene and the Sons of Disaster song, and how much I really liked it. The song was called "Burn the Witches." And for those of you who don't know, who missed the last episode, Maylene and the Sons of Disaster is a southern metal group, like southern hardcore metal, where they take elements of, metal and like southern folk country music together. And it's really awesome. And they were one of my favorite bands, and they've been on they were on an indefinite hiatus for a long time because Dallas Taylor, their lead singer, was in a horrible car accident and took years to recover, and then finally has gotten the band back together. We don't know if it's for like a permanent amount of time or if they're even going to make an album or anything, but they at least got together to make a song, and they played at Furnace Fest. I believe it was Furnace Fest as well, and so that was pretty awesome. And we'll see what the future of the band is. But anyways, got a comment regarding that. LM says you should definitely do a series on Dallas Taylor's recovery. 4 is my favorite album by them, which all their albums, they're numbers, but they're like Roman numerals. So this one was, IV, which is 4, of course. 4 is my favorite album by them. Beautiful melodies across the board on that album. And I did respond to LM's comment, but I'll just address it here. Yes, for one thing, 4 is also my favorite album from them. Mostly having to do with the fact that it was the first album that I listened to by them. A lot of great songs on there. I think some people kind of disregard it. They think that it's like too mainstream because their early stuff was a lot more screamo, and their later albums sounded a bit more like kind of mainstream, a lot more melody in the songs. But I personally loved that. But I like both eras, and that's the reason why I like the new song, because it seemed to be a mixture of both eras. And but it's funny that LM mentions that about doing a series on it. That's I've had the very same thought. I think that would. I've definitely got that on my radar. A couple of years ago, some of you may remember I did my series on As I Lay Dying and Tim Lambesis and that whole situation. And I love doing documentaries. I did the Dear Slim documentary, and I'm currently working on a John James documentary. John James, formerly from the Newsboys. So I would love to do a video on Dallas Taylor and his recovery. I've not looked deep into his whole story. I'm kind of saving that for my research, but we'll see. I don't know if that would look more like a series or just like a one-off video. These days, I said series and then my Siri turned on. Sorry to anyone else whose Siri's turned on. So I don't know if it would be more of a series or just a one-off. I did the series thing with As I Lay Dying, and then the Dear Slim documentary, which was about an hour long, I think. I just did the one-off. But these days I'm okay, as some of you can tell. I'm okay with doing longer form content. I mean, a lot of my favorite YouTube creators make longer form content. So it would all just depend on how long it ends up being. But I don't expect the story about Dallas Taylor to take up a long time. But I mean, I could be wrong. But anyways, all that being said, I do have a lot of projects on my radar. You know, I finally finished the audio feed video, but of course I'm still working on the John James documentary, and, you know, I haven't gotten much headway with that. I'm still just kind of going through footage at this point, and then I had to take a break for the audio feed video. And I got a couple smaller projects on my radar. Me and Mitchell did a fun thing involving the God's Not Dead movie, and so it'll be a shorter, fun video when that's out. So I got that, and I also had a couple ideas. I thought about doing a video on the Maverick City Music song "Bless Me," but then I kind of decided maybe I'll just do an overall video on my thoughts on worship music. So I'm thinking about that, and also Marcus Mumford has a new album out, and I thought, like, this would be an interesting thing to make a video about rather than just a review on the podcast. So I've got a lot of ideas that I just kind of quickly want to get out there, and so who knows when I'll be able to get around to a Dallas Taylor video, but we'll see. I think that would be a great idea because, you know, God obviously did some awesome things in his life through that. So we'll see. But yeah. Anyways, if anyone else also has any other ideas for videos for me to do, feel free to let me know. But anyways, that was all housekeeping, and that took 30 minutes. I apologize, everyone. There was a lot to go through, especially with the last episode. So I think we probably won't be able to get around to Dante Bowe today, but that's okay. Everyone's been talking about Dante Bowe, and so I'd only just be adding to the noise. If you're adding to the noise, turn off this song. That's a little Switchfoot reference for you guys. Anyways, we're going to go into a break, and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, our main topic about Eminem and Kanye West and DJ Khaled and all that. But we'll be right back. We just got to get through these messages, and so don't go away. All right. Bye.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
every time I feel like I've mentioned this before, but every time I come back from break, I feel like the pastor who, I don't know if anyone's churches still do greeting time where everyone, COVID might have killed that in a lot of churches if it wasn't dead already. I was at a church at the time that we still did that. But you spend like 5 minutes shaking each other's hands and then like talking and everyone's getting all social, and then the pastor comes back up and is like, "All right, everyone, stop being nice to each other. Let's get back to our seats." Blah blah blah. That's kind of how I feel every time we come back from a break. So, everyone, turn in your Bibles. Anyways, all right. So, this story is like a month old. But you guys know how things are here at the I'm Clifford Today show. I started the I'm Clifford Today show partly to be more on top of like any new stories in Christian music, if any like new music came out. But even then, I still feel like I'm late. I'm late to the game. So everyone has already talked about it, but I felt it was kind of relevant for me to talk about it on this show because, I have a particular interest in this topic, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. Some of you guys kind of already know where I'm going with this. So, but just happenstance, if you missed this, it broke all the news that Eminem and DJ Khaled had their first Christian #1 hit song. And so everyone was just kind of weirded out to see Eminem and DJ Khaled's names in the Christian charts. But it's true. But I mean, once it's explained, it kind of makes more sense. Everyone knows about Kanye West and how he's apparently a Christian now. I did a review of his Jesus is King album. And if any of you remember from his album, Jesus is King, there was a song called Use This Gospel. And personally, it was my favorite track on the album. I still really like it. It's really simple and yet like really catchy, and it's got this, great hook to it. It's really great. And I like the lyrics to it as well. So it's a pretty solid track. Because I had mixed feelings about the Jesus is King album overall, but Use This Gospel was good. So, DJ Khaled, released an album. And this is basically DJ Khaled's Jesus is King. And it's called God Did. And this album features a remix of Use This Gospel, of Kanye West's Use This Gospel. And not only that, but it features a new verse from Eminem. The one and only Slim Shady Eminem, the most I guess a lot of people consider him the king of hip hop. Some people have a problem with that because he's white, and some people think that like hip hop is exclusively. I'm not gonna get into that, but anyways, he's like the most popular rapper ever. I mean, he's sold the most records out of any other rapper. It's true. So this was kind of a big deal. I mean, not just Eminem, but also DJ Khaled, who both of them have been renowned for being not very Christian at all. And I was like, what the heck? How did this, what is going on here? I mean, it's not too surprising if you've been paying attention to the Christian charts. I mean, like, because we've had Christian artists who have been okay with having more secular known artists feature on their tracks. I mean, like, Chris Tomlin had his country album and it had people like Florida Georgia Line on there. And, you know, Toby Mex had Sheryl Crow. We talked about her being on his album last time. And Dolly Parton, I think, was like number one for a while with that one song. Was it Thomas Rhett? I forget. Anyway, so it's becoming more and more of a thing to see secular artists on Christian radio just because they're featured on a Christian artist's song. This one makes a little bit more sense. I mean, I've had my concerns about Kanye West. I've kind of wondered like whether he actually is a Christian or not. I mean, but you know, who's to say? I was a little concerned because, you know, he became pretty close with Joel Osteen, I guess. He became a little affiliated with that. And also just his behavior over the past year or just since Jesus is King has not always been very Christian-like. And of course, you know, every Christian is going to struggle, and that's completely fine. But just like the whole thing with Pete Davidson and him making that song that was, he made a song that was an animated music video that featured him doing very violent things with Pete Davidson. And so it's like, what is going on with Kanye? So, but anyways, people still consider Kanye West, you know, I guess he's a Christian now. And so he allowed DJ Khaled to have this remix on his album. And now I listened to God Did. I tried to listen to DJ Khaled's album, the whole album, and I just couldn't get through it. I mean, I'm not really the biggest hip hop fan anyways. I'm very selective with the hip hop that I like to listen to. DJ Khaled has definitely never been one that I've been a fan of. I mean, DJ Khaled's not even a rapper. He's just a producer where he pretty much everything that he releases is just other people rapping on his stuff. And so it just makes me wonder like what talent DJ Khaled has. But anyways, God Did is basically supposed to be DJ Khaled's, you know, recognizing that God has brought him all the success and fame. And it's just like, first of all, that's not to say, like, yes, of course, anyone who has any type of success, you know, it won't happen unless God allows it. But that doesn't mean that you can say that, you know, God has blessed you, so to speak, because you've been so faithful to him. And I'm only saying this because I listened to the album, and Use This Gospel is basically the only good and clean song on there, because that album is just, you know, it's just littered with filth. There's nothing really about it except for the Use This Gospel remix that makes it Christian, really. I mean, maybe DJ Khaled is trying to say that, you know, God has done good things in his life. I mean, good for him, but like all the other people that he has on his tracks are just like bragging about all the sin in their lives. And there's a track from Jay-Z where he's basically he's comparing himself to God, and it's just like, what is going on here? Nothing about this is Christian, really. And so I don't really have it. It's not really a question in my mind whether DJ Khaled is a Christian, and I don't think anyone else is, and that's why most people are just talking about Eminem. People aren't even really fooled by what DJ Khaled is saying, or what other people are saying on the album. He's not really even saying much. But anyways, I couldn't finish the album, so that's just all I wanted to say. But anyways, so yeah, in this Use This Gospel remix, Eminem adds a new verse to it, and surprisingly enough, this is the only verse, this is the only song that has no cussing and bad language in it. Which, you know, if you're familiar with Eminem, that is quite the feat, you know. So I'm gonna go all Ben Shapiro, and I'm gonna read these lyrics, you know, because I'm not gonna play the song. I'm gonna get copyright stricken. I mean, but y'all should know the chorus already. You know, use this gospel for protection. It's really good. I also got to say, I do prefer the music in the original better than this one. I'm not sure if I really care about the production in this remix, but anyways. So Eminem's verse says, "I'm holding on, yeah, but I don't know if I can take it much longer. Today's the day that I put all my trust and faith in you, Father. Please let this hate make me stronger." Which, that's kind of a weird line. "For they turn on me like a zombie. It's like I'm being strangled unconscious, yeah. When temptation is almost like Satan is baiting you, trying to take you away from your daughters, dangling a bunch of painkillers on you, waving them in your face, and then Watsons come in extra strength. And that's why they make them in rectangular objects, because that's the shape of a coffin. Though it ain't medication this time, but the devil's egging me on, and I ain't gonna let him break me, because I'm a soldier. You can bank on that promise like the Chamber of Commerce. So my Savior I call on to rescue me from these depths of despair. So these demons better step like a stair, because he is my shepherd. I'm armed with Jesus, my weapon is prayer. Soon as I squeeze it, I'm blessed like sneezes. Call me Jesus. I'm effed in the head." He actually says effed. You know, he's censoring himself. "Maybe I'm bonkers. Regardless, never claimed to be flawless. Long list of mistakes I've acknowledged." So, you know, he's saying that he knows that he's not perfect. "Y'all wish I would say something positive. Well, okay, then I'm positive. They'd rather trade leather with Mayweather, because they would fare way better with them odds than they would exchanging some bars or trading any barbs with Shady. And it probably is painfully obvious to compare godliness to an atheist, but I got them audiences raving amidst my squabbles. I got some awesome inspiration to draw from off 'em. Pen and paper, I'm knocking 'em off. Woke up on stage at a concert, whole place looking like a mosh pit. Bible at my side like a rifle with a God-given gift. Every single day I thank God for. That's why I pay so much homage. Praises to Jesus, I'll always." And then it goes into the chorus. "Use this gospel." So, not really the kind of lyrics that you would expect from Marshall Mathers, you know, the rap god. Like, what's going on here? Like, if no one would bat an eye if, like, Tripley or Lecrae had this verse in one of their songs. No one would bat an eye. Maybe they'd be a little... Maybe people would be like, what's with the "let this hate make me stronger" kind of verse? Well, I guess when I think about it, I'm thinking about it just now. Like, maybe he's not talking about the hate that he has, but the hate that other people have for him. So, yeah, I get it. So anyways, it's just bizarre to hear Eminem rapping about those kinds of things. Very explicit, and it seems like he's making some sort of statement of faith. So, the question is, the $50,000 question is Eminem a Christian? Like, why else would he be rapping this verse if he didn't truly believe what he believed? Now, Eminem has made some allusions in the past to, believing in God and, believing in Jesus. Never really said anything about, like, being a devout Christian or anything. But, other than that, there really hasn't been anything to allude to the fact that whether he's Christian or not. So, is Eminem a Christian? I'm about to maybe burst some of you guys' bubbles a little bit. I may be disappointing you just a tiny bit with this one, because something that some people don't really realize with this track, this particular track, they use this gospel remix, is that this track is about 2 years old. And this track wasn't originally made for this album. If you go back to Kanye West's Twitter feed, Kanye West tweeted about this track before. Because, for you guys who aren't, avidly following Kanye West's, activity, there was supposed to be a Jesus is King Part 2. And this track, which actually was mainly produced by Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre, I'm pretty sure, was actually supposed to produce the whole album. But yeah, this track was supposed to be a sort of like sequel to the original, and it was going to be in the sequel to the Jesus is King album. So, and Kanye West had tweeted on Twitter thanking Eminem. This was like 2 years ago, back in, excuse me. Sorry. Back in September 2020, he thanked Eminem for rapping on the song. So people have kind of known about this for a while, and just, I guess people kind of thought, well, I guess it's never going to come out. But anyways, when you keep that in mind, that this was originally recorded 2 years ago, there has been nothing since then. Because, the truth is that time will tell whether Eminem is a Christian or not. But the thing is that time has already kind of told a little bit, because it's been 2 years. And there hasn't been anything from Marshall Mathers that has shown that he is trying to live a godly life. Nothing explicit. I mean, of course, not meaning to judge, and I don't like to be the one saying that, you're not a Christian or this person's not a Christian. I want Eminem to be a Christian. But I don't think that this track is really any sort of, I don't think it's any sort of turning point for Eminem. If Eminem has dedicated his life to Christ, then we just have yet to see him put a lot of effort into it. I mean, the Bible says, like, you will know them by their fruits, whether they follow him or not. And there really just hasn't been anything that I can see, that anyone else can see, that Eminem is all of a sudden a Christian now. I mean, he came out with a song with Snoop Dogg that was all about smoking weed and all that stuff. And of course, it had its vulgarities in it and profanity. So there's just nothing really explicit to show that he is trying to, live a dedicated life to Christ. But, who knows? Maybe he's just really working on it. I'm sure. I mean, if Eminem was to become a Christian, I'm sure it would take a lot of work for him to, work through that. But, I have a lot of hope for him because I just think that this is an interesting chapter. I don't think Eminem would write those lyrics unless he had some sort of, that maybe he wants them to be true. Maybe Eminem does want to be dedicated to Christ and it's just being hard for him. But the reason why I'm kind of invested in this, some of you guys may know who have been on the channel, following the channel long enough. I actually mentioned it earlier in this episode. I did a sorry, I keep coughing. Need to take a drink. I ate a donut on the break, so it's probably getting lodged in my throat. But anyways, I did a mini documentary about Eminem and about KJ52. And just to give you a short synopsis of that whole story, this is something that actually happened. KJ52 is a pretty well-known Christian rapper. At least he was. He's not Lecrae, at this point. But he kind of was the Lecrae of his time. He wrote a song because so many people compared his rapping style to Eminem and that he was a white rapper just like Eminem. He wrote a song called Dear Slim. It was addressed to Eminem. And then he wrote a Dear Slim Part 2. And there's just this whole thing. This whole thing happened where MTV called it the least hip hop moment in history. But there's this whole thing where Kim Mathers, who was Eminem's girlfriend, wife at the time, actually got a hold of those songs and how she was kind of ended up being affected by KG52's music and everything. So it became this big thing. And then Eminem actually made this song where a fan wrote a letter to him and said that he was praying for him. And that was basically the gist of the Dear Slim songs. And so the people have been like, well, was that KJ52 he's talking about? Can't know for sure, but it really sounded like it. Anyways, I highly encourage you guys to go check out the video that I made. For one thing, that video never really got the attention that I wish that it had gotten. I mean, as I lay dying, I'm just saying, I'm having a prideful moment. I think more people should check out the Dear Slim documentary that I made because I'm proud of it and I really like how it turned out. And so go check it out. I mean, I think it's just an interesting story. And so some people are wondering, like, well, did KJ52 actually get through to Eminem? Because here's the thing, is that I highly doubt that that Eminem has never heard those songs. He's got to have heard them at some point. By this time, MTV talked about it. All these big networks talked about it. How would Eminem not know? Plus, there was the fact there was a little story in the video, in the whole Dear Slim saga, where a guy went up to Eminem at a concert and gave him a copy of the song. And so Eminem for sure, held the Dear Slim song in his hand. But whether he, actually listened to it or not, people have always wondered. So, who knows? I mean, of course, there's a chance that Eminem has been, ministered to in some way, and it could have had nothing to do with KJ52. I mean, it's a big world. We live in a predominantly Christian nation. Someone's going to reach out to him. I mean, Kanye West. Kanye West could have been, speaking into his life, which would be cool. I hope so. I hope so that Kanye West is making a big difference and that he's trying to get his life together. But yeah. Anyways, that's the whole thing right there. I think just the main takeaway is just to, pray for Eminem. I mean, he's saying these things on this song, and that's a pretty big deal. And maybe the popularity of this song is, it's been a couple of years, so maybe Eminem is like listening to it and like, oh yeah, I forgot that I did that. And, maybe it'll affect him in some ways. Like, you know what, maybe I should do a better job at living for Jesus. So, we'll see. Let's pray for Eminem. And, let's continue to pray for Kanye West as well, that he, does his best to live a life for Christ and that he doesn't let himself get in the way. DJ Khaled as well. Let's pray for him, that this whole project somehow gets to him and realizes that he realizes that it's not all about money and fame, and that if God truly is responsible for his success, then he needs to live a surrendered life to Christ. So, anyways, that's the whole Eminem thing. I guess the new addition to the Dear Slim saga, it would probably, if I was for some reason still making the Dear Slim video right now, this would probably just be like just a little footnote at the end, because there's no way to know for sure. So anyways, I guess we have a little bit of time to talk about Dante Bowe, Maverick City Music. So I've talked about Maverick City Music a little bit on this channel. Their song, one of their songs made it on my top 10 best Christian pop songs list. I feel a little differently about them now, as I've changed my mind about a lot of worship since then, because of course Elevation Worship also made it on that list, and I just feel differently about worship music. I'm just over all these overly emotional worship, like just emotionally charged worship music. And I guess I could get into what I mean by that. It's just that Hillsong and Elevation, all those kinds of bands just have a lot of dynamics in their music that just kind of comes off as like manipulative, emotionally manipulative. And I just, and of course you're going to find worship music, like all worship music is going to have some elements of that, because like music just by default is emotional. So but there's just something about Hillsong and Elevation and Maverick City Music, about their music that just, and Bethel music, especially Bethel music, that's just seems more deliberate than like say City of Light or Sovereign Grace music, which is the music that I tend to listen to these days. But anyways, other than that, I haven't really had much against Maverick City Music, except for there's been a few scandals. There's the whole thing with Chandler Moore. I'm pretty sure it was Chandler Moore who was posing with his wife in very like raunchy poses And it's just like, dude, like, I get that you're married and all, but we don't need to see that. You know, that's not very Christ-like, you know. So there was that, and there's also a thing with Maverick City Music about their. I'll get into that. I'll explain the whole situation with Dante Bowe. So Dante Bowe is he was one of the worship leaders from Maverick City Music. You know, he was kind of up there with Chandler Moore as being like the more recognizable leader. And you guys may have heard that he was basically kicked out of Maverick City Music. Kicked out is a strong term, but it's basically what happened. Just for recent behaviors on his, just things that he was posting on social media that brought some people concern. So I'm going to read this from the Christian Post. Dante Bowe releases public apology, vows to recommit to God's purpose for his life. Grammy Award-winning singer Dante Bowe has released a statement apologizing for his behavior after Maverick City Music said they would be pausing their professional relationship with him. In the statement, Bowe said, "I sincerely apologize for the impact of my behavior and that it has offended many people on the platform we share together. This experience has been a very real reminder of the importance of being incredibly intentional with how I utilize and engage with the tools social platforms provide." Unquote. He came under scrutiny after posting a video of himself inside a party bus listening to rapper Bad Bunny, who I understand is a, pretty non-Christian rapper with, very questionable lyrics. And dancing to a song with overtly sexual lyrics. He also raised eyebrows at the Grammys after saying he hoped to see openly gay rapper Lil Nas X perform at the awards show. So basically saying that he hoped to see Lil Nas X. Maverick City Music announced Tuesday that due to behavior that is inconsistent with our core values and beliefs, we have decided to put a pause on our professional relationship with Dante Bowe. Decisions like these are not easy because of the level of nuance, both professionally and personally, but we felt it necessary to address. Following that statement, Bowe temporarily disabled his social media accounts. He reinstated his Instagram account to share the public apology. This platform of success I enjoy is a blessing that is both gifted to me and shared with you, my faith community, family, friends, supporters, and fellow artists, Bowe wrote. Throughout this process, I have received wise counsel which influenced my decision to take a step back and reflect about my actions so that I may recommit to living in the purpose God has for my life. The goodness of God's singer added. Bowe, who has gone from being homeless to a platinum artist, ended his post by saying, "I want to say thank you to Maverick City Music for their continued support now and always. Throughout this process, they have remained by my side, and for that, I am truly grateful." Thousands of people have liked and commented on Bowe's Instagram posts, including a supportive comment by Naomi Rain, who wrote, "Love you forever." I think Naomi Rain is another Maverick City Music worship leader. But anyways, it kind of goes into like the people that have commented on it, and so I don't really care. But thanks, Christian Post, for that. So that's the whole situation, and I want to say I'm actually kind of pleased with how this whole thing has come about. I think it alludes, it reminds me a lot of the more recent story with Matt Chandler. And these stories are just giving me hope. Considering, like, not too long ago, we were talking about Gavi and that whole situation. And before that, everyone was talking about Ravi Zacharias. And so it just seemed like, man, there just seems to be like no accountability here. And now it just seems that, people seem to be taking these things more seriously. And that gives me a lot of hope. I think Maverick City Music made the right decision by putting a pause on their relationship with Dante. And I think Dante had a very healthy response to the whole thing. I'm very proud of him, honestly. I'm so proud of him. Because, like, honestly, anyone else, I feel like, would have just argued and had an attitude about it. But he has a completely healthy response to it. He's not showing any bitterness or anything. And he's actually going to he said that he's going to people in his life that he considers to be wise. Yeah. So I think this is good. This is really good. However, I kind of feel like that this has been a long time coming. This isn't the first time that we've had concerns about Maverick City Music. There have been, well, some of the concerns, are more just a matter of beliefs and such. What's their names? There's a video made by another couple on YouTube that I appreciate. Paul and Morgan. Paul and Morgan have a video on Maverick City Music about some of the concerns that they have, and so I recommend you guys check that out. And that video was made before like a lot of the more recent stuff. I mentioned the whole thing with Chandler Moore and the behavior with his wife. It's a little weird. A lot of people were concerned recently with Kirk Franklin and Maverick City Music being on The Voice and that whole thing. And that's a weird whole thing where they get Whoopi Goldberg to quote unquote worship with them. Whoopi Goldberg is not a Christian. I have confidence in saying that. Just like some of the weird stuff that they said. But maybe some of it was more Kirk Franklin. But anyways, there was that. And also, Ruslan KD, he's another YouTuber that I enjoy watching. He talked about the fact that not too long ago, we're talking about Dante Bowe's activity on social media, but Maverick City Music, apparently, how they shared a video of a girl dancing to one of their songs, and this girl is like apparently in a swimsuit, a bikini, and she's like wearing her thong or whatever. And they posted that on their social media, and no one never said anything about it. So there's that. And there's also, like I said, some of these concerns are more of a matter of beliefs. Maverick City Music tend to kind of go in the more woke kind of direction, for lack of a better term. I hate using that term, but it's the one that everyone understands. They tend to lean more towards, critical race theory kind of thinking. They they had a shirt that was celebrating Juneteenth and all the names of people that have apparently been, supposedly killed in police brutality. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I don't want to go deep into it. But if you want to know my actual thoughts and beliefs on it, just read this book right here, Fault Lines by Vodi Bakum. You read this and then you'll understand where I come from, my beliefs with that. Anyways, that's just where Maverick City Music tends to stand. And so I have my problems with Maverick City Music, but either way, it's like we've been kind of wanting to see this with other concerns. And so I kind of wish that Maverick City Music had been this accountable a while ago. But either way, I think this was the right decision. I think they need to, be accountable for a lot of the other stuff that has happened involving Maverick City Music. But, all that we can really do, what have I been saying this whole episode, is pray for them. Pray for Dante Bowe. Pray that this is will be a great time for him to get in closer relationship with God and to, be stronger in his convictions. And, just pray that Maverick City Music continues to seek out God's will, excuse me, in their ministry. That's what I really want. That's what I ultimately want. And what more could you want? So yeah, that's me talking about what everyone else has already talked about. And I guess that's it. That's all for Dante Bowe for now. We'll see how things go. But anyways, yeah, that's about it. We're now going to get into my humble opinion. It's time to talk about some music. Got a couple of things. There were some things that I wanted to get to, but I never really had a chance to listen because I am the internet's busiest Christian music nerd. Maybe that's what I should say. I'll steal the needle drops thing, but I'll be the busiest Christian music nerd. Because honestly, I don't really know anyone else on YouTube that talks about Christian music as much as I do. I mean, you'll have your odd, Joe Ensley every once in a while talks about, song, worship music. But literally almost everything that I do on this channel is about Christian music. So I really believe that I am the internet's busiest Christian music nerd. So you could at me. Let me know if you think that there's anyone else who's a contender for that title. But for now on, I'm taking that title. All right. So first off, we've been talking about his music for a while on this segment because he's been releasing a lot of singles. But Tyson Motzenbacher finally released his new album, Milk Teeth. And I got to say that I'm a fan. I really like it. I think I like this better than his previous album, Someday I'll Make It All Up to You. I don't think I like it as much as his other album, Letters to Lost Loves. This one just seems a lot more focused than Someday I'll Make It All Up to You in terms of theme and music. I mean, I will say, Tyson has improved so much in his production. I mean, this is probably his best sounding album. I mean, Letters to Lost Loves was a lot more, folky sounding. And Someday I'll Make It Up to You was kind of experimenting more with some more groovy kind of sounds. And he just went all in with this album. So this is a better version of Someday I'll Make It All Up to You. So, and just in terms of theme and everything, this album, talks more about, I guess the theme would be nostalgia and just, memories past, talking about regret and, just healing in relationships. And so it's a very nostalgic kind of album without having really a nostalgic vibe in terms of the sound, really. Because it does sound very new and very fresh. But I'm a big fan of it. There's a lot of songs, even the last couple tracks I think are great. Just some great songwriting. And it's really chill also. It's the perfect album to just kind of put on your car with the windows down. As long as the weather's still nice, it's getting kind of colder. But this was the perfect Same with Someday I'll Make It All Up to You. Both of these albums are like really good for that like in between summer and fall kind of vibe, that transitional period. So, but anyways, I think it's pretty good. Milk Teeth, yeah, it's a lot of fun, really groovy, and Tyson Motzenbacher is continues to be a favorite of mine, and has not disappointed me yet. So, I give this one right now. It's sitting at a 7 out of 10. Really solid. Yeah. And next up, we got a single from the newly returned Caedmon's Call. We talked about on the show before how they're reuniting to remake their original debut album, their self-titled album. And their second single from this album is Bus Driver, which Bus Driver is a lot of people's favorites. It is a personal favorite of mine from this album. Oh, hey, I'm being raided. Welcome, Nick Gundy. Raiding with a party of one. Awesome. Oh my goodness, it is a Gundy raid. Oh my goodness. The Gundy squad is here. Thanks, man. Thanks for the raid. I'm just getting through a music review. So anyways, yeah, Bus Driver is a lot of people's favorites. It was a favorite of mine. Nick Gundy says, hello, I hope I'm not interrupting your episode. No, not at all. In fact, it's been kind of quiet over here today, so I appreciate it. I'm getting near to the end of the stream, just FYI, but, stick around. Still got a little bit left. So, Bus Driver was a favorite of mine from the self-titled album. My absolute favorite, and the one that I'm really excited for, is I Just Don't Want Coffee. So I'm excited to hear that one. But Bus Driver was definitely one of the ones that I and many other people were excited for, because it's kind of an underrated gem. And this remake actually does not disappoint. In fact, I think that I compared the original with this one, and I think this is actually better, honestly. Like, I love the original, and it gives me a lot of memories. Listening to it, listening to this remake gave me a lot of memories. But it's just very subtle differences between this remake and the original one that make it just a little better, in my opinion. I just like how things are mixed. I like how they did the percussion in this. Which, this is actually not the first time that they've remade this song. They remade it for their Chronicles compilation album. And that one was a fun version too, but it strayed a little bit further away from the original sound of the song. This one tries to recapture it, but just improve it a little bit. And, I don't know. I'm really into it. And, I mean, I love this song in general. Again, with all the problems that I have with, how Derek Webb has been leading his life recently, he was still my favorite from Caedmon's Call, and he's a great songwriter, and he was very influential to me, actually, especially with this song and I Just Don't Want Coffee. I just love his storytelling style, and just the style of his lyricism, and it's such a wholesome kind of song where it's all about realizing your worth, no matter like what occupation you hold, whether you're a bus driver or not. You're important in some way. You make a difference, and I think that that's a good message, and it's just a fun song. Also, I will say that there's one little improvement, one little criticism that I have about the original was the way that Derek Webb pronounced the lyrics and the way that he sang because I remember always struggling with whether when he sang the chorus, I'm just a bus driver, the way that he sang it in the original, it kind of sounds like that he's saying, I'm just dumb bus driver. I don't know if anyone else had that problem. It's like, I'm just dumb bus driver. And in this one, he's a lot more concise. And I wonder if they've gotten criticisms about that before, and that's why it sounds better. But anyways, yeah, I think this is great, and it's making me excited for the rest of the album. And I also want to say that I hope while I'm excited for this remake, I kind of hope that they also just release the original on all platforms, because it's nowhere to be found really, unless you have the actual CD. And I wish I did have the original CD, but I don't. And it's very hard to find, so that's a big reason why they're doing this remake. But I hope that they also release just the original album. That would be nice to have too. Anyways, I think that's all for my humble opinion. And we're getting to the end of the episode. And yeah, just want to remind everyone, especially Nick Gundy is here. Audio feed video is coming out this Monday, and I'm super excited about it. Nick Gundy is actually in the video, so you should definitely check it out for that reason. And yeah, so next episode we're either going to talk about that, if there's like a big enough reaction. When that video is out, be sure to leave a comment and such, and let me know what you thought about it. And yeah, I'm super excited to have that out there. So I guess that'll do it for today. This has been the I'm Clifford Today show. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave a rating and review. We'll give you a shout out on the show. We'll read your review and everything. And, on Spotify, I always have polls and questions, Q&As for you guys to interact with on the episode, so check those out. Also, be sure to listen to my other podcast with my friend Mitchell, Podwood Forecast. We recently did an episode on Better Call Saul, the TV show, and pretty soon we're going to be starting recording a new episode, and so that'll be fun. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, if you liked what you heard and saw here, that's a good way to support me. Also, buy new merch. Link in the description for t-shirts and such. And yeah, next episode we talk about either audio feed or another topic that I have in mind. But anyways, I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Take care. Have a good weekend.